We're about to start our afternoon session. So if you're online, good. If you're not, if you need to send us a communication requesting that we hold up, we'll entertain that. But while that's going on, I'll go ahead and mention that Green Bud and LLC, applicant number 1626, is our next applicant up for a presentation as an integrated facility. And before they start their presentation, I'll ask Mr. Justin Aday to give some comments on their application.
All right, this is applicant number 1626, Green Bud LLC. You have their complete application along with the applicant summary and the printed presentation materials that were provided to you. Okay. And then there were no pass-fail items noted in this application.
Thank you, Justin. Mr. Steve French?
Yes, sir.
All right, the floor will be yours, and Ms. Peters will put your time allotment right here on the counter, so just watch that as you progress through your presentation.
Thank you very much.
We'll take some time for questions, either during the middle or after, whichever you prefer.
However you want to do, it's up to the commission. So,
all right, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Steve French, and I represent Green Bud LLC. I'm one of the founding members, and I'm happy to be here. First of all, let me say to each one of you, as a former elected official, I surely appreciate what y'all are doing. And I know that y'all maybe didn't sign up for everything that you have found, but I want you to be assured that we find it to be very valuable. So thank you very much. Green Bud LLC is seeking an integrated license, and we believe that we are an authentically diverse and deeply experienced medical cannabis company. We want to take about 35 of our 45 minutes, hopefully, and leave time for questions and answers, and ask that you pepper us with anything that you want to. Again, my name is Steve French. I grew up in the southwest corner of Alabama. My dad was a pharmacist, and when you grow up in a small-town pharmacy, one of the things that you come to appreciate is the fact that folks don't get sick just Monday through Friday, 8 through 5. I went often with my dad on weekends, at nights, and on holidays to open up the store to help people who were hurting. And one of the things that I learned that served me well in my life is that when people are hurting, it's necessary to go the extra mile. And so with that in mind, in 2009, my mom died of liver cancer, and she didn't have this therapy available to her. And I was actually in the Senate at the time, and I was helpless to provide her because it wasn't legal, and I didn't know where to go, but I knew she needed help. And I changed my mind that night about medical cannabis and the therapeutic benefits. So again, I'm grateful to the legislature for bringing this much needed enabling act. I'm grateful to each one of you for what you're doing, and thank you very much. I was actually brought into Green Bud by a friend of mine who I knew from the banking world. Ryan Ramage, Alex McWilliams, and I make up the founders. Ryan and I had a previous relationship where I was his, thanks. Where I was his client and he was my banker. He left that banking relationship to go to work with AMAC, which is a construction company of great reputation in Birmingham, and they have over 50 employees. When we had our original founders put together, we knew that we had to reach out to yet other successful Alabamians who could bring more value to our company. And I had a relationship with Derek Walczak, who has had a tremendous success of a real estate career in Birmingham and beyond Alabama's borders. Derek is a co-founder of Shannon Walczak, and Shannon Walczak has been a super successful company, and it's founded on their principles and their integrity. They know how to raise money. They know how to invest wisely. And I was very happy that Derek, after doing his due diligence, agreed that Green Bud LLC was the type of venture he wanted to get involved with. They have raised over $150 million in 10 states. over the last few years, and they have a portfolio value of $378 million. So the evidence points that they know what they're doing and they do it right. Derek would be here today, except for the last several months, he's been scheduled to be in New York City this day, raising funds for his real estate business. But he asked me to convey to each and every one of you his commitment and his understanding of what the capital needs are for the first 3 years so that we meet or exceed the regulations required on us by this board. We have an advisory, there we go. We have an advisory board of 10 business folks, including the 4 that I've mentioned. We have industry experts and we have industry experienced individuals who have come together with Greenbud to make this presentation and seek this license. The advisory board, of which I'm a member, is responsible for directing and overseeing the senior management team for all the operations that come with the license, especially compliance and especially security. We are a diverse company. We have the good fortune of finding an operation team that was largely intact. When we had our original founders team, if you will, the first thing that we wanted to do was find the right operators that had experience. You can't legally, as you guys know, you can't legally have experience inside of Alabama in this industry, so we had to import the experience from out of state. And we were lucky that we found the former president of Trike Companies, who was available to us. The former president of Trike Companies, Trike was a multi-state company out west. They had originally agreed to sell. The owners had asked the company president to market the company, and they originally had agreed to sell to what was then the largest operator in the U.S., Cresco Labs. Cresco Labs in 2019 and 2020 had made all the public statements that they were going to buy Trike. You might remember something happened in 2020. It was called the pandemic. And with the pandemic, that changed Cresco's plans, and Cresco killed this project, the purchase of Trike, as well as others. Before they killed it off, the president of Cresco Labs had this to say about the Trike team. Trike has proven itself to be one of the top operators in the U.S., and we look forward to welcoming Trike's seasoned team to Cresco Labs. Well, that didn't work out for Cresco Labs, but it worked out for Greenbud, much to our great success and our happiness. When the deal with Cresco fell apart, the owners asked the president of Trike to once again market the company, and once again, he was successful in finding the leading top operating company, Curaleaf, and convincing them of the value of Trike. So twice he had it sold to the top operator, first Cresco Labs and second Curaleaf. And one of the things that I think is important, the reason I'm going down this path with y'all, is it's important to illustrate that our president was able to convince 2 of the top, the number 1 operators in each year, of the value brought forth of the business that had been built by our president and by his team at Trike. And we think that that's quite a testament to the value of the Trike team and their ability to perform. Well, as I said, good fortune for us, bad fortune for those that got caught up in it. But almost as soon as Curaleaf closed on the purchase of Trike, they announced massive layoffs. And so most of the Trike team was available when we went looking. And again, that was much to our good success there. Here's our organizational chart. Without trying to read it all out to you, you'll see that we have 15 on the operational chart. 13 of which have at least 3 years of cannabis business experience, 9 of which are minorities, and 6 of which are women. I'll point out that not only do we have a diverse, experienced team comprised of women and minorities, but that each one of our team members have key leadership roles on the advisory board and throughout the company. So this isn't a figurehead. These are folks that are going to be active in the daily operations of the company. And we agree with what the Cresco Lab president said, and we say that nobody has a more proven team than Greenbud's team. We are the most experienced ownership and operating team assembled and ready to contribute. We are the strongest diversity applicant, and our applicant is based off of standard operating procedures that have already been proven in the marketplace as being top shelf. Why is Greenbud the most experienced? Well, we've got most of our operations team are trike operations experience performers, led by its president. And with their experience, they bring their skill set, they bring their field experience, and they bring their proven standard operating procedures. We also have a construction team that brings a best-in-class building reputation for building cultivation facilities and a track record for meeting regulators' timelines. We have a security team that's detail-oriented, professional, and it's made up of ex-military, some of which are special forces, and ex-law enforcement. And we have an adherence to compliance, and we prove that by the fact that some of our team members are actual former industry regulators. I've been talking about the ex-president of Trike, and now it's my honor to introduce him to you. But before I do, I want to say a couple of things about his qualifications and why we chose him. Joshua Bruner is a former Trike president. He's going to be our CEO. He's also going to be our CFO. And we're confident that he can do the job as CEO because, frankly, he's done it before. He was the president and the de facto CEO of Trike and oversaw its 100 million plus in annual sales, and he led 500 plus employees. And we know that he can do the CFO job because, frankly, he did that too. He wore that hat at Trike. And in addition to that experience at Trike as CFO, he spent his first 10 years in the business world as a CPA working for Deloitte, one of the big 4 accounting firms. So before I yield to Josh, let me just give you, in summary, 4 reasons why we found him to be the unique, ideal candidate to run Greenbud's operations. He has 6 years of cannabis business experience. He has a master's degree in business. He's a CPA, and he has a track record of success in running the cannabis company. I got behind there. Before I bring him, or as I bring him up, I wanted him to really highlight one aspect and talk about the process that he helped achieve in getting Trike one of the first 8 medical cannabis licenses in Utah. And so without further ado, Josh Bruner.
Other side. Thank you, Mr. French. And let me start by saying I'm honored. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be able to participate in this process. And I'm honored for the opportunity to help the great state and people of Alabama who I've gotten to know very well over the last year and a half. As Mr. French mentioned, I began the first 10 years of my professional career at Deloitte, where I was subject to highly regulated environment. All of my public clients were regulated by the SEC. I myself, as a CPA, as well as my firm, were regulated by the PCAOB, a division of the SEC, 2 of the most complex regulatory bodies in the entire country, if not the world. So I've had immense experience being regulated even before getting into medical cannabis. And I've applied that public company influence in how I've designed and led my medical cannabis businesses. good internal governance, good business processes, good internal controls, and timely, robust financial reporting. This should be evident throughout the application and the level of governance we have set up, including the advisory board, who I will be reporting to. Throughout the exhibits that document our proven business processes that have well thought out segregation of duties and internal controls like you would find in any leading public company in any industry.
Slides.
Oh. I think I'm still on this slide. Yeah, I'm still on this slide. In terms of what Mr. French was referring to in Utah, Utah first issued medical cannabis licenses in 2019. They actually issued 8 licenses. Although I was in the middle of leading the Cresco sale negotiation that Mr. French was referring to in the summer of 2019 when they were issuing those licenses, that means I was hosting M&A guys and other executives for site visits across our 3 states for all the major cannabis companies. It wasn't just Curaleaf, it wasn't just Cresco, it was all the major ones. I've met with 10 of the top leading CEOs in this space. I know very many of them. So I was doing all that. I was the only guy at Trike working on diligence requests because I was the only one of the 500 employees that knew we were selling the company. So I also had to keep that a secret. I didn't want to sell the company, but my ownership group did. We had a great company. I loved my team. I loved the business, but my ownership wanted to sell. So I was still doing my day job. Still chief operating officer for 500 people, responsible for 500 employees. I was still the CFO, responsible for all the finances, getting audits done, keeping the lights on, and I was leading the Trike application team in Utah, competing against 80 other applicants, trying to win one of those coveted licenses. During that process, I presented to their Medical Cannabis Commission and the regulators they had established, and I assured them we could and we would meet their deadlines because I have done it before. And they were very similar to the timelines that you guys have established here as well. In fact, the entire program was designed extremely similar to what you guys are doing here, almost as if you guys have done some research on them. But from what I took away, the emphasis on pharmacy-like professional settings, a lot of the types and forms of medication we produce there, we can produce here. And in terms of how well the application was laid out, the whole process was extremely well laid out. Again, just like here. So both applications were challenging, but they were extremely rewarding for me and my team to work on because I knew there were only a few people or a few teams that could do what we were doing and could talk about what we had done because we had done it before. I've led professional, vertically integrated medical cannabis businesses, and I have an entire team of extremely experienced and extremely diverse people backing me up. So for all that hard work and time put in, very similar again to what I did here, at the end of July 2019, my team and I were notified that we were going to be awarded one of those first 8 licenses. The license was officially awarded to us in August of 2019. And now I want to ask you guys to do something. It's only going to take 15, 20 seconds. You can do it right now, or you can do it tonight, later on, or you can just take my word for it. What I'm going to ask you to do, if you have access to your smartphone, is Google Trike Companies, Utah, Salt Lake Tribune. Again, you don't have to do it now, but if you do that, the top, again, if you want to write it down, Trike Companies, Utah, Salt Lake Tribune. If you guys do that, you will find an article in the Salt Lake Tribune entitled, "Take a Look Inside of One of Utah's First Legal Marijuana Farms." When you click this article, you'll see a picture at the top with someone resembling myself. It is me. But the most important thing I want to direct you to is the fact that that article was written in January of 2020. Again, I received the license in August of 2019. Less than 5 months later, I hosted their commission members, their regulators, several Utah politicians, the local mayor, several police forces, and just about every television and news organization in that state. Most importantly, what my team and I were able to proudly demonstrate at that time was that we had already taken down not just our first harvest, but our 4th harvest. In the 5th month after receiving that license, I kept my commitment to those regulators to build out that facility on time with a phased plan, because we had to start growing within the first 30 days, similar to what we will be doing here. We had to start the veg process. We brought in a grow trailer for that. But at the end of the day, we pulled it off, and we successfully met the state's cultivation timelines. And in fact, we became the first medical operating cultivation in that state's history. In a second, I'm going to introduce you to the man who helped me build that facility, and in record time, because there was no way I was going to sign up for this incredible endeavor in Alabama here without him. So that was Utah. Now, I had also asked my business partner to be here. We had some flight problems, and he didn't make it, unfortunately. So I am going to move on. But the whole point kind of that bullet was I have a former CEO in the industry who I thought would be quite impactful, because he happens to be a former CEO of one of the other applicants you're going to be hearing from this week. Now, I wasn't going to present him as being on our application, but he's someone I've already partnered with, because I want you guys to know that I'm moving Green Bud along. I had hoped to be started here now, but I want my team to get started, and I have done that by attracting a friend of mine, but someone very well known in the industry that has left Justice Cannabis. He was formerly the CEO, and him and I have partnered, and we're moving Green Bud along as much as we can at this point. Unfortunately, again, he's not here, but I'll move on. Because anyway, what I really want to do is highlight my team, and that's kind of what I'm going to get into now. So like I said, I'm going to start talking about my team, and that's because at the end of the day, with everything I've been involved with everything I've built, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have been able to do any of it with my team, and I'm very proud of my team. They make me better at my job because they're incredible at theirs. They're some of the most experienced medical cannabis business leaders in the entire country, and I'm proud they want to follow me here to Alabama to help me out with Green Bud. So to start, I'm very pleased to introduce Steve Van Metren. He was my construction director at Trike for me. He built several cultivation, processing, manufacturing, and even retail facilities for me throughout Arizona, Nevada, and Utah. And like I said before, this was the gentleman who built my Utah cultivation facility in record time. Before becoming involved in medical cannabis construction, he owned and led a large construction firm that built primarily throughout the West. And he's built in every single type of climate and topography. So I'm confident he'll build me a great facility here. There are very few really good, really experienced construction guys who understand this industry, understand the environmental conditions our grow team needs to not only hit, but maintain, and maintain that over several years without their facility breaking down. So I'm very fortunate to have worked with Steve and to say he's on my team, but most importantly, throughout this whole process, I've been blessed to have him as a mentor. I'm going to turn it over to him now.
Good morning, or afternoon, I guess it is, huh? Thank you for the opportunity to come speak to you. My name's Steve Van Metren, and I've been in the construction business for a little bit north of 40 years. So I got introduced into cannabis 2015 when I started doing some work for a company called Planet 13. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not. built them some facilities, and then was hired by Josh to come work at Trike and do some work for them. Since 2015, I haven't done anything other than cannabis. I understand what you have to do to clone it, to harvest it, to dry it, to cure it, to process it, to package it, to extract it, and get it to market.
Just doesn't know how to smoke it.
No,
Never smoked it.
no, I've never tried it, but that's okay. I also have an assistant, Ashley Spriggs, who has been with me over those times, and she is a rock star. She can find products for me or communicate with subcontractors. She's a delightful person, and she has a lot of experience, and she's a fireball. So she would also be on the construction team.
So let's talk about the track and the plan.
Okay.
Just kind of our phased plan to.
Okay, the ultimate goal is, of course, to build an indoor facility. I know there's a lot of different people that'll tell you, cannabis is not a big problem to grow. It is. It has to have perfect climates, perfect humidity. Sometimes you have to dehumidify it. It's very susceptible to mold and all kinds of other issues, pests. So the facility in itself is very important when it comes to cultivating cannabis product. So
Yeah, we're just, sorry, I'll just take.
no, go ahead.
We're just going to kind of run through quickly what our plan is here. I know it's not very easy to see on the screen, but we tried to kind of use numerical referencing. But the plan is, if you see the boxes highlighted 4, those are greenhouses, and our plan basically is to drop some greenhouse structures out at the property that we've selected. And backing up, sorry, we meant to cover this in our presentation, but the land that we've got access to, about a 200-acre parcel of land that one of our founding members owns. Actually, it used to be an ex-motocross track out in Pell City, which it was actually the McWilliams who is who are the owners of the AMAC construction business that we introduced you to before. But basically, they had a motocross track that they've since shut down last year, and have given us the use of that track. So we have a nice plot of land out there. There's already water, there's already electricity, there's already power. So we're good to go to get started. But to meet the timeline, again, similar to what we did in Utah, the plan is to drop these greenhouses out there. We've got some units reserved that are kind of like out-of-the-box units that we can just drop there, and we can have those up in less than 30 days. Steve's done this before. In terms of getting kind of the growth started to make sure that we can finish within those 90 days, we are going to have to bring in some sort of probably grow trailer or something. I know some of the other presenters you've heard from have talked about the concept. But basically kind of an all-in-one unit. You can buy these trailers out there for $40,000, $60,000, or you can rent them too. But basically it'll allow us to get the plant started in a proper environment. We already got the power out there, we already got water and everything. So that won't be a problem. But while we're constructing these greenhouses and getting them ready to go, we can start the grow process right away. Once those plants are have reached kind of their mature veg cycle and are ready to be put into the greenhouses for flower, those greenhouses are going to be ready to go. So then we'll move on from that and start kind of making building out and I apologize, this visual isn't very great. It didn't translate to PowerPoint very well, but this is our from our application. But we'll be building the support corridors that link up to the rest of the building simultaneous. And then by the time the harvests are ready to take down, we'll be ready to process all that, including having the lab built out. And then kind of like the final pieces of the facility will be rounding out the security area and some space for our secured transportation team in order to do their business. Steve and I have worked over the years with our security team to do similar projects like this, because obviously there is kind of a phase where the facility isn't kind of completely controlled, and we're constructing it, and we need to keep outside visitors away and make sure we restrict access. So we'll be working really closely with our security team, who is also an incredible group, and I'd like to tell you about them. I'm extremely proud of our reputation in the industry for safety, thanks to an incredible team of professionals who have done some incredibly brave things in their careers and even in their time with me. A lot of them, just about all of them, are former military or law enforcement. This team is not a mall cop or run a security guard type of outfit. Chris Boffman is the leader. He'll be our security director. Chris was my security director at Trike. He ran a team of over 60 guards across multiple states. These are seasoned guys. Again, primarily all ex-military, and many of them were special forces. And then also several law enforcement officers. Chris led extensive training and program exercises to prepare for all types of situations: active shooter, medical emergencies, disgruntled employees, disgruntled customers, etc. Chris worked in law enforcement before joining the industry. He was a pretty high-profile officer, actually, with the Las Vegas Metro Police Force. And he's also worked in drug trafficking units, gang squads, some pretty intense units. But he's leveraged this prior experience and relationships with law enforcement, sorry, to build effective relationships with regulators and local police forces. And then there's Bronson Allo, our secured transportation director. While Chris in his security director role at Trike for me was also the lead on our secured transportation team there, which we also had a multi-state fleet, Bronson led up specifically Utah and worked hand in hand with Chris. Both of them designed and oversaw a professional secured transportation team and fleet of vehicles in 3 separate states, with vehicles and SOPs tailored to each state's specific regulations. We had 0 material incidents or loss events under their command. Bronson was formerly a cop in Utah and Hawaii before he moved to the mainland with his wife. So that's our security and transportation team. I'm also very proud of our compliance team for multiple reasons. As I said before, I've been regulated my entire professional career, and I embrace it. I do that by building highly compliant, highly organized, and well-structured businesses. Terrence Whittier, our compliance director, has worked on both sides of the industry. He was a regulator and an auditor with the CCB of Nevada, which is the cannabis regulators in that state, which was modeled after the highly sophisticated Nevada Gaming Commission. It is extremely valuable experience to have worked as a regulator and know what you guys want to accomplish. He formerly served in the Army, again, one of many ex-service members on my team. And as part of his many compliance responsibilities at Trike, when he worked for me, he was also the business leader responsible for medicated inventory. He led a team of over 30 what we called ICC, or Inventory Compliance and Control, that oversaw tracking from seed to sale, including mastering all the seed to sale systems out there, the MJ freeways, metrics, BioTrax, etc. He's going to lead up our ICC team for us here, which we designed, and we're extremely fortunate to have him. Crystal Verduzco, our regulatory and licensing director, also was an incredible part of that team. She has significant experience helping through licensing and getting people approved by regulators to work in this industry. She has done this for literally thousands of people, handled dozens of business filings and renewals each year, assisted with many of the daily legal activities associated with this highly regulated, complex medical cannabis industry. And she did a lot of work for us throughout the application process too, gathering administrative and background information for 20 plus of our team members. And a final highlight of our team, just the sheer volume of medical cannabis transactions we have overseen. The amount of patients we have served in our dispensaries. The number of wholesale transactions we have conducted, selling our best in industry products to third-party dispensaries. My team has an incredible amount of experience doing this. These are just a couple of my strongest leaders. Shanae Taylor worked for me in Nevada as a dispensary manager, the top business leader in a store with a team of over 50 staff and supervisors. She has overseen some very busy stores, some stores that have averaged over 1,000 daily patients and customers. She was the most detail-oriented and organized dispensary leader I had and was passionate to help patients and to develop her staff. She will be Greenbud's dispensing director. Julianne Evangelista was my wholesale director at Trike and has managed high volumes of wholesale activity in multiple states, and I'm talking about tens of millions of dollars of wholesale volume. She has great relationships with vendors and customers because she serves both sides, but she always emphasizes compliance. She'll be Greenbud's wholesale director. I've got many other team members I wanted to highlight in here, but I didn't have time because of our short window to present. But hopefully it gives you a good idea of who my team and I are and why we are the most experienced. Let me now tell you why I think we're the best diversity applicant. Now, throughout the negotiation process with the advisory board, I insisted on equity for my team. This led to a discussion and some research on the diversity designation option, given the majority of my team members who are going to follow me to run the daily operations were in fact ethnic minorities. It was not a decision we made lightly. While we knew it could position us well, given the strengths of our team, the amazing, diverse, and deeply experienced group we had, we also knew it came with great responsibility. It was going to require all of us to step up and be the best possible leaders that we could be. And then there was the matter of convincing the board to allocate that much equity for the team. But we got through all that. I talked to all of my team members and every single one of our minority leaders, and we ultimately made this strategic decision. We made a commitment to be the best and most diverse team. And the board allowed 51% of Greenbud's equity to go to 9 of my minority team members, plus an additional local leader who was to be selected for his incredible track record of activism, for being a leader, and most importantly, for being someone who has led successful diversity programs, like what we were intent on building, that could position us to be the best possible minority candidate. We made a decision that if we're going to check that box and take on that responsibility for ourselves, under the public eye, that extra scrutiny, we needed someone as seasoned at promoting diversity causes as we were seasoned in our field of medical cannabis. And I can tell you, throughout the many times I met up with this man, whether I met him for breakfast or lunch around town, no matter where we were, people came up to him, they shook his hand, and they paid him respect. I was blown away by that. That level of respect he's garnered in his community, that is what I want for my people. So I'm proud to announce that individual who will lead our diversity team in fulfilling our responsibilities is none other than the great civil rights activist and former mayor of Birmingham, William Bell.
Thank you very much, Josh. To the members of the commission, we appreciate the opportunity to come before you. Josh made a statement about, they made the decision to bring me on board, but I also had to make a decision. And that decision was to go back and look at how far I've come in the community. I've served in the public arena for over 40 years in various capacities of an elected official, both at the city level, the county level, and served on national boards. But I want to take you back to when I was first elected as a young city council person. After all the hoopla, my dad took me outside and he said, you're going to City Hall and you're taking only two things with you to City Hall. That's your name and your reputation, and your name and your word. He said, now, I gave you your name. Keep it clean. He said, but only you can give your word. And if you give your word, honor your word. And I carried that in my heart all of these years in everything that I tried to do as an elected official, to be committed to the work, to do it in the best interest of the public, and to make sure that everything that I did it with honesty and integrity. This was not the first group that came to me to ask me to be a part of their team. Some of the groups that presented to you earlier today also came and asked that I be a part of their group. Some of the groups that have already taken a prominent lead or position also came to me and asked me about that. They did so because of my name and what it represents. But I also turned them down because of my name, because I did not feel comfortable with some of the things that they were presenting, with the makeup of the diversity team that they were putting together. I felt that it could be stronger, and it was not as strong as it should be. Greenbud came forward with a plan that would have 51% ownership by a diverse group of individuals. Josh went through the list of participants who will operate at the management level to make sure that diversity runs throughout the organization of Greenbud. But there's also a commitment to the community as a whole. I'm sorry. There's also a commitment to the community as a whole and the state as a whole. Back when a precursor to the legislation that created this body, there was a bill that was passed called Carly's Law. And I was the mayor of the city of Birmingham, and we supported that bill that we recognized that cannabis could have a healing effect or being used to dissipate some of the pain and anguish that individuals with illnesses had to go through. Later on, when the legislation came forward and was being discussed that created this commission, I was part of what was called the Big Five Mayors. That was the mayor of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, Montgomery, and Mobile, along with myself. And we discussed the pros and cons of that cannabis bill and the impact that it would have on our communities, and that we did not want to have something that could get out of hand and bring devastation to the communities itself. Since that bill was passed, and since local legislation or cities had to pass bills to allow those cannabis to be distributed in their communities, I've talked with many of those mayors who served on that Power 5 board with me, and they all still have those concerns. But I give you my word today, and only I can give you my word, is everything that we promise you today, I will make sure, as a member of the advisory board, as an owner of Greenbud, and as a involved person in the community, that we will carry out each and every promise that we make to this commission and to the citizens of the state of Alabama to assure that we will have diverse participation, but more importantly, we will protect the community in every way that we can to show that we can be a part of this great effort in a responsible manner. So I appreciate your time. We appreciate your consideration, and whatever you do, whoever you select, make sure that they have the community at the forefront of what they're trying to do and presenting their product to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Willem. Steve, you want to come up here too? All right. All of us, I guess. Just real quick before we end it, just wanted to kind of highlight the application ourselves. I mean, I know we threw the scoring out and everything, but I want to stand by the fact that that was one of the best applications out there because I did it. I know it's won before, and I know it's got the team to back it up with the experience. That's just kind of highlighting that. And then we just kind of want to briefly go over our timeline too, just to kind of assure you we're understanding what you're trying to do here, what the timelines are here, and this is kind of high level in the first kind of 90 days, what we're looking at for cultivation in terms of we're going to break ground a week or two after you tell us we got a license, hopefully. And we're gonna have a plan, like I said, like we walked through, we're gonna have a plan to have product in 90 days. And that's gonna involve starting early, starting those first 30 days, but we got a plan for that too with the grow trailer. And then you have our commitment to having all of our stores open in Q2 of next year when we think product will be available. So having said that, we'd welcome any questions you guys have for our team.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Mr. Bell, Mr. Brenner, Mr. Van Metren. Thank all of you for showing up today and giving us a great presentation. Any commission members have any questions or comments? Mr. Harwell.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, share a little bit about your greenhouses, what type they are, and also your pest management plan using a greenhouse.
So the greenhouses that we've used in the past are out of Iowa, and they're translucent panels. And the side panels are insulated metal panels. And as far as the pest pressure, we use a regiment of non-toxic fertilization and dosing in order to reduce that.
Well, y'all do your own site testing for pesticides and contaminants?
Actually, we do, but we also have to submit that to a local lab.
Right.
So we have a workup room that tests all of those products before we implement them.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Harwell. Anybody else have a question? Yes, Dr. Jensen, go ahead.
You mentioned several different software systems you are familiar with. Which one will you be using?
The one that we've kind of used as so being in multiple states, and actually every single one of those states required a different system. So ultimately what we did was use kind of a main, we had a system we knew best. Our legacy system was BioTrack. That was the one we were most familiar with. It was easiest to work around. So the plan will probably be either to use something very similar to that or just use the state system.
Okay. And how you have this great team, and how many will actually be located in Alabama?
So I've had that conversation with every single one of them, and I have asked them all to move here within the course of the next year or two. I have asked them all to be living here.
And will you have pharmacists at each location, each dispensary?
Yes, we will have pharmacists at every location. Actually, one of the things I wanted to highlight by bringing Darren Carpenter, who was the ex-CEO of Justice. When I was in Utah, I had a cultivation facility. So I was vertical in every other state, but I wasn't vertical in Utah. Darren, who I mentioned is on my team, former CEO of Justice, had two pharmacies there. So he's got a lot of experience. I did apply there. We ended up not getting a license. But he has ran two pharmacies there and has like kind of all the background. He was kind of going to go over that whole process in terms of what he's done, because he's got a lot of medical. He was an Army medic. He's got a lot of medical background, so he was going to handle that kind of whole spiel of our presentation. But yeah, yes, we have a plan to always have a pharmacist on staff at every single one of our dispensaries during all open hours. We've got that documented throughout our application.
Okay, and then as far as your dispensaries go, they seem to be ready to go really quickly. Are there already pre-built sites that you have to remodel?
Yeah, the majority were. Yeah, the majority were just remodels. quite frankly and transparently, like there may be a couple locations that we have to resecure, but like I said, we're committed to finding those locations and being ready to go in Q2. I mean, potentially other applicants are in a different boat, but it's been a year since we've had those conversations, so we've lost a couple of those properties, to be quite frank.
Yeah, not surprised. And finally, I guess, have you had any regulatory or compliance issues in any of those 3 states?
No regulatory compliance issues ever.
Okay.
And sorry, back to the other note on the retails. The other point we meant to kind of hamper down on is having access to Shannon Walchak. I mean, he's the one that his firm is what found us a lot of those sites in the first place, because they've got a pretty expansive real estate network. So he's committed to being engaged and using the firm to make sure we get retails lined up right away, again, within the first week or 2 of hearing about licensing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen. Thank you, Mr. Bruner. Anyone else? Yes, Dwight.
Thank you. I apologize for coming in a little bit late today, but can you speak a little bit about your financial ability to fund your dispensaries, cultivation process, and all your
Absolutely.
other?
So we've got a budget of about $15 million for our full vertical. Our plan is, and Derek Walchuk, maybe you came in a little after that, but Derek Walchuk is the individual that has kind of assured us, and we've done a lot of work. Maybe you want to talk a little bit more about him.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Derek Walchuk is one of the co-founders of Shannon Walchuk and a longtime friend of mine. I have experience in raising money, but not at the level that he has. He and his folks have raised $150 million over the last couple of years in 10 states that they're operating. They have a portfolio value of $378 million on their real estate holdings. And he's currently in New York raising money for his real estate business, which is why he couldn't be here today. But he asked me to convey to the board, which I did prior to you getting here, that he understands fully what the needs are and that he's committed to making sure that we have more than enough to meet the needs so that we never are in a bind.
Can I add something to that?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, one other thing to add to that too, and sorry to keep referring back to the gentleman who didn't get here, but Darren and I have been working in the couple markets that we're looking at. We've actually engaged one of the largest, if not the largest, cannabis bank in the country, and we actually have a draft of a letter from them basically giving us in the neighborhood of $6 to $8 million of lending for another project. But
Was that 6 to 8 or 6
to 8, yes.
6 to 8 million?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble. Anyone else have a question? Thank you, Mr. Bruner, Mayor Bell, Mr. French, Mr. Van Meteren. Thank you for coming today, making a presentation. We appreciate it.
Appreciate the commission's time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.